Good morning. I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The Department of Justice has ordered all law enforcement agencies, including the Philippine National Police and the National Bureau of Investigation, to arrest Senator Bato de la Rosa after the Supreme Court denied his petition for a temporary restraining order.
The Senate is eyeing July 6 for the start of the impeachment trial proper of Vice President Sara Duterte.
COMELEC will conduct a preliminary investigation into alleged illegal campaign contributions involving Senator Chisa Escudero.
A Filipino-American designer at Mattel is bringing Filipino culture to Barbie through Filipino dolls inspired by his heritage and his mother. The wet season may begin in the last week of May or the first week of June, according to Pag-asa. The State Weather Bureau says the country is now in the transition period between the dry and wet seasons. Pag-asa says it will look at rainfall levels and wind direction before officially declaring the start of the rainy season. For now, easterlies are still prevailing, but more frequent thunderstorms are expected, especially in the afternoon and evening.
Officials are giving updates on flood control projects as the country braces for the rainy season. For the details, let's bring in Mobile Journal, Arles de los Santos. Arles, go ahead.
Diego at Angela, tuloy-tuloy nga yung pagkasilip at pagpapaigting ng mga ahensya ng pamahalaan para nga masiguro na handa ang bansa sa paparating na tag-ulan. No? Ayon mismo kay MMDA General Manager Nicolas Torre III ay walang patid ang kanilang desilting at anti-flood projects, maging yung waste segregation projects para nga nang sa gayon ay maibsan no, yung pagbara ng mga basura sa ating mga estero na kalaunan. Ito rin talaga yung nagdudulot ng pagbaha. No? Sa kanilang update ay umaabot nga sa 7,000 na tonelada yung nakukuha sa mga estero kada taon habang nasa 5,000 tonelada naman mula sa mga pumping stations. No? Kung tutuusin, 12,000 tons yan sa loob ng isang taon o halos 1,000 tonelada ng basura kada taon. Aminado si General Torre na hindi madali itong kanilang mga proyekto na ginagawa, no? At syempre yung paghahanda dahil itong mga nakaraang araw matatandaan natin na nagkaroon ng mga pag-ulan. Ayon sa kanya hindi pa ito malakas kung tutuusin, pero marami na agad area sa Metro Manila ang bumaha. Kaya mas paigtingin pa daw nila ang kanilang mga proyekto para nga masigurado na ma-mitigate ang pagbahang mararanasan sa maraming bahagi ng Maynila.
Arles, lahat ng pumping stations ba? Are all systems go? Or may mga iilan pa rin na not functional? Kasi I remember last year may mga problema ang iilan na pumping station natin.
Meron pa rin mga hindi gumaganang pumping station, Diego, kagaya nung sa Sunog Apog sa Maynila na matatandaan natin parang nilipat yung last update natin doon. Nilipat yung pangangalaga and yung contractor na hahawak ayon mismo sa DPWH and yung ilan pa sa Quezon City inaayos pa din para nga masigurado na magagamit ito. No? Pero kahit hindi pa gumagana itong mga pumping station na ito, malaki na agad yung basura na nakukuha doon. Kaya pinapaalalahanan din talaga yung publiko na maging responsable sa pagtatapon ng mga basura dahil kung tutuusin, bumabalik din ito sa atin. No? At bukod dyan, hindi lang naman nagtatapos sa paalala yung ginagawa ng MMDA dahil sa totoo lang may mga na-apprehend na o napagmulta dahil nga nahuli sila na nagtatapon ng basura at pag mahuli man once, no, may chance na magmulta ng mula 500 pesos hanggang 3,000 pesos at yung sa subsequent offenses na tinatawag ay posible ang umabot ng 5,000 pesos na multa. At kahit nga yung maliliit na upos ng sigarilyo na itinatapon sa tabi-tabi ay binabantayan na rin ng MMDA. And then patungkol naman doon sa usapang trapiko, mas pinaiigting pa rin nila yung hotline 136 na nais ngang masiguro na within 5 minutes makakatugon agad at darating ang mga staff ng MMDA anuman ang emergency.
All right, thank you for that. Mobile Journal, Arles de los Santos. The PNP and NBI have been tasked by the Department of Justice to arrest Senator Bato de la Rosa after the Supreme Court denied his TRO petition. Here is the report.
The Department of Justice has ordered the arrest of Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa after the Supreme Court denied his petition for a temporary restraining order. Justice Secretary Frederick Vida has instructed all law enforcement agencies, including the Philippine National Police and the National Bureau of Investigation, to arrest the senator.
Alam niyo po yung mga law enforcement agencies natin, trained po yung yan. Alam nila may standard operating procedure, meron yung mga intel gathering, intel analysis, counterintelligence measures that they will pursue. And they are expected to pursue this.
He said De La Rosa is now considered a fugitive from justice and should be brought before the International Criminal Court to face charges of crimes against humanity in connection with the Duterte administration's war on drugs. When asked if the senator would immediately be brought to The Hague in the Netherlands after his arrest, Vida declined to give details, saying operational matters cannot be discussed publicly.
These are operational matters that I cannot discuss so that we don't defeat the purpose of the arrest, which is the ultimate objective is to bring him to the ICC.
He also warned individuals who may attempt to help De La Rosa evade arrest, saying they could face liability under both Philippine law and ICC rules for obstructing the enforcement of a valid warrant.
Kaya nananawagan po tayo. We need a closure on this one. Those who might be aiding or abetting or helping Senator Bato evade the law, there are consequences. Alam natin na sa panuntunan ng rule of law may pananagutan. Pinagtago, hindi lamang po sa mata ng batas ng Pilipinas, pati rin po sa batas ng ICC.
De La Rosa's lawyers earlier said they will file a motion for reconsideration before the Supreme Court, insisting the ruling is not yet final as the main petition remains pending. Meanwhile, the Office of the Solicitor General acknowledged the Supreme Court's denial of the TRO petition, saying it removes any legal barrier to the enforcement of the ICC warrant.
And of course, to help us make sense of the implications of these developments, we are now joined by Attorney Jennifer Arlene Reyes, constitutional law book author and law professor. Good morning, Attorney. Thank you for joining us again.
Hi, good morning, Diego and Angela.
All right, from a legal standpoint, paano po ba, no? How is this significant? Or how significant is the Supreme Court's denial of the TRO of the case against Senator Bato de la Rosa?
Well, it is a significant setback para sa kampo ni Senator Bato de la Rosa, no? Because when you pray for a temporary restraining order, you are asking the court, or you are proving to the court that you have a clear and unmistakable right, and someone is invading that right, and you are in danger of suffering grave or irreparable damage or injury. So if the Supreme Court did not agree with the said prayer or relief that you are seeking, it is a major setback since wala nang makakapigil, right? Technically and legally, sa pag-i-implement ng warrant of arrest or the ICC warrant of arrest against Senator Bato. And I would like to take this opportunity also to commend the Supreme Court as to the denial of the temporary restraining order, kasi pinatunayan nila na unlike the Senate, na tila naging sanktuaryo ng mga pugante or ng mga akusadong individual, the Supreme Court proved the denial of the TRO. It proved that the Constitution is alive, no one is above the law, and unlike the Senate, even if you are a powerful person, even if you are a senator, if you are not in compliance with the law or not entitled to the reliefs under the law, then you must face the consequences.
Well, Attorney, we are still waiting for the main issue to be resolved, but does the denial of this TRO give us a glimpse of possibly how the Supreme Court justices will make a decision regarding the main issue?
Well, let us hope that it is truly a glimpse of how they will resolve the main case. We can only hope that the Supreme Court be guided by the same wisdom that they applied in denying the temporary restraining order application in deciding the merits of this case, because that will be a triumph for the rule of law under our country.
Attorneys, to and related to that, now that there is a clear path to arresting Bato at this point, let's say they do so and they whisk him off to The Hague, and the Supreme Court all of a sudden comes up with a ruling. Paano to? Will this be moot and academic, or will they still rule for future reference?
They will still rule for future reference, although it will be deemed moot and academic, right? Because that is an exception to the moot and academic doctrine for the guidance of the bench and the bar. And if it is capable of repetition, yet evading review. The conflict there is, will the ICC listen to the Supreme Court's ruling, right? If they already have jurisdiction over Senator Bato and he is already detained in the ICC.
So, pero attorney, no, let's say they rule in favor of Bato and he's already in ICC custody, and the ICC does not listen to the Supreme Court ruling. May liability ba yung mga arresting teams, officers, the DOJ and the ILG?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Because during the time that they arrested Senator Bato, there is no legal impediment since there is no temporary restraining order. The ICC warrant of arrest is deemed legal in our jurisdiction, and these law enforcement authorities acted upon a lawful order.
Well, whatever the ruling will be on the merits of the case by the Supreme Court, could this be eventually become a landmark Supreme Court ruling on the Philippines' obligation to the International Tribunal?
Yes, definitely. That is why, just like what I stated a while ago, I hope that the Supreme Court will be guided by the same wisdom, since in a plethora of cases, they actually emphasize that with respect to international relations or foreign relations, actually, this is a political question. The judiciary has no authority to interfere with the functions of the executive. And under the Constitution and under jurisprudence, when it comes to international or foreign relations, ang may kapangyarihan lamang is the president. The president is our only and sole representative. Kaya actually ang Pangulo ang may kapangyarihan at mandato na ipa-implement ang ICC warrant of arrest and not a local judge or justice.
And of course, Attorney, what do you make of the 951 vote of the Supreme Court on the denial dun sa TRO ni Senator Bato de la Rosa? Anong ibig sabihin nun para sa ordinaryong Pilipino?
That only means that some of the justices also found merit in the said prayer, but then again, the majority voted for it to be denied. That's why, let us remain vigilant. Let us remain let us remind the Supreme Court that they should always be guided by, existing laws and the spirit of the Constitution, because that is correct. That is a correct observation. Anything can happen, right? It is not, a fixed vote or a unanimous vote. So let us hope for the best.
So, kumbaga parang nakikita natin, there's still a division on that particular area, on that particular decision. And anything can happen.
Yes, and anything can happen.
All right, Attorney, well, now that the question of gaining physical custody of Senator Bato is still up in the air. But does this now provide a clear guidance that those who in the first place prevented the initial arrest can be held liable because the Supreme Court junked the TRO, or do we have to wait for the main issue to be resolved?
Well, during that moment, even if the Supreme Court hasn't denied the TRO prayer yet, in my humble opinion, people who obstructed or delayed or even facilitated the escape of Senator
Yes,
Bato can be held under our own law. We have a law, Presidential Decree 1829, which penalizes obstruction of apprehension and prosecution of criminal offenders. Linawin natin, no, sa ating batas na ito, hindi kailangan na yung taong nagkakanlo or tumulong sa pagtakas, alam niyang may warrant of arrest or walang warrant of arrest. The law specifically provides that a person can be held liable under the said law if he or she has reasonable ground to believe na yung kanyang tinutulungan or pinoprotektahan ay baka nagkasala under the law. So I believe the ICC warrant of arrest became public or was unsealed on May 11, 2026. So some of the senators there or some of the individuals there are already aware that there is a reasonable ground to believe that Bato violated certain penal laws. So they can be held liable under the said presidential decree.
Ano penalty nun, attorney? May prison time ba yan aside from disqualification from office?
Yes, 6 na taon na pagkakakulong pag po sila ay na-convict at kung ang nag-commit ng krimen na iyon na isang public official, pwede po silang patawan ng perpetual disqualification from public office. Ibig sabihin, hindi na sila magiging public servants or pwedeng makatakbo under the law.
Well, perhaps, Attorney, baka you could clear this issue with us regarding the word fugitive because medyo hati po kasi talaga no, pagdating sa legalidad yung terminolohiya na fugitive. Others would say he is already a fugitive in justice, pero yung iba sinasabi niya medyo yung teknikalidad nung word na yan, hindi nila masabi na talagang fugitive si Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Napakagandang tanong po, no, na dapat malaman ng mga kababayan natin na Supreme Court mismo po. Sa Supreme Court lang po kayo maniwala. Sa desisyon ng Korte Suprema sa Valyacar Transit versus Yanson, ang ibig sabihin po ng isang fugitive, hindi lamang ito limitado sa isang tao na na-convict tapos ay gusto niyang i-evade ang kanyang sentence or ang kanyang penalty. Ang isang tao ay maituturing din na fugitive if that person is charged but he or she is evading prosecution or apprehension. So hindi kailangan ng conviction tapos dun ka pa lamang tatakas para matawag kang isang fugitive. Kahit ikaw ay na-charged pa lamang but nag-flee ka na or tumakas ka, nagtatago ka, you are already considered a fugitive under the law.
Well, it's glad that we heard that. No? Kasi ang daming takes dyan. Si former Justice Ascuna said na si Bato is not a fugitive at this point but can be arrested. Kasi sabi niya, he cleared that if you use the word fugitive, he cannot function sa Senate already because it takes away his right to function as a Senate. Well, si Dean Aquino naman, Arnilio Aquino, said pwede siyang fugitive na because it's just a technical term.
So now, we all know, right?
Yeah, paano yung take na yun, attorney, in regards to functioning as a Senate?
As to the functioning as a senator, of course, if you are a fugitive from justice, first off, you are evading the lawful legal processes, the lawful processes. Paano ka pa makakapagtrabaho as a senator? Tandaan po natin, ang isang senador ay nagbabalangkas ng batas, right? Kailangan ay uma-attend ka sa mga Senate hearings, sa mga committee hearings na ikaw ay chairman or member. So, it is a waste of taxpayers' money kung ikaw ay maituturing pang nagfa-function as a senator even if you are actively hiding from lawful arrest.
Well, I remember talking to Attorney Torion and they were also raising the argument doon sa Article 59 ng Rome Statute na it says there na kailangan dumaan muna sa local court. Pero I understand, since we are not part of the Rome Statute anymore, we cannot invoke that Article 59. Tama po ba?
You are correct, Miss Angela. Ang Article 59 po ng Rome Statute, though tinatalaga nito yung mga pamamaraan kung paano aarestuhin ang isang accused under the said statute, ito po ay nai-invoke lamang ng mga state parties. Dahil po hindi na tayo miyembro ng ICC, then the said party or person can no longer Article 59. Siyempre, sasabihin na naman nila, wala na pala tayo sa ICC, wala nang jurisdiction. Hindi po ganun yon. On the other hand, kahit naman po tayo ay hindi na miyembro ng ICC, may obligation pa rin po tayo under Republic Act 9851. At to emphasize, ito pong sarili nating batas, RA 9851, this has become effective even before we became a member of the ICC. So actually po, kahit hindi tayo miyembro ng ICC, pwede pa rin i-surrender si Senator Bato sa ICC because of our own law. Republic Act 9851.
Plus, we have yung tinatawag na residual obligation na nangyari yung mga supposedly yung kaso na ipinupukol sa mga Duterte and et al. Dahil we were still member at the time. Tama po?
Yes, and this was the ruling in Pangilinan versus Cayetano. Again, it was the Supreme Court which categorically stated that all the liabilities for the alleged crimes against humanity which were committed by the state agents up to March 17, 2019, may jurisdiction pa rin po ang ICC kahit hindi na tayo miyembro.
So, ang question ngayon, attorney, is ano pa ang legal remedies ng team nila Bato? Because yung ruling ng Supreme Court junking the TRO was from the first TRO filed 14 months ago. I wanted to ask if in this new TRO, does the Supreme Court still need to decide on this or wala na yan? Kasi given na the first one already set a precedent.
Well, it is their right to file a motion for reconsideration, technically. However, it is very rare po, no? Napakadalang na ang Korte Suprema ay binabaligtad ang kanilang desisyon as to the denial of a temporary restraining order unless yung kampo po ni Senator Bato de la Rosa ay magpe-present ng mga bago at compelling reasons kung bakit dapat pagbigyan ang TRO. Kung it is a mere rehash of their arguments, kung paulit-ulit lang yung argumento nila, then I am confident that the said motion for reconsideration will be denied.
Well, Attorney, I also noticed before, of course, so sabi nga natin, the arrest warrant of Senator Bato de la Rosa is no different from the arrest warrant of the former president last year. But if I can remember it correctly, when he was being arrested, si former President Rodrigo Duterte, the operation or the arresting officer was PNP. But nito pong nakaraan, ang unang naghain po ng arrest warrant kay Senator Bato ay NBI. So, legality-wise or procedural-wise, I don't know po, bakit po may pagkakaiba doon?
Because under Republic Act 9851, no, nakalagay doon relevant Philippine authorities. So ibig pong sabihin nito ay yung mga law enforcement authorities natin, no, under the executive department. So kahit NBI, kahit PNP, pwede po na mag-serve ng ICC warrant of arrest kay Senator Bato. They are both legally authorized under the law to implement the said warrant.
So, kumbaga, last question ko po, kumbaga, maybe, kaya hindi PNP ang nag-serve ng warrant kay Senator Bato is because possibly he was a former PNP officer and baka may conflict with some of the other officers?
Well, dapat wala, di ba? Dapat wala. Kasi as a PNP personnel, ang loyalty mo ay sa konstitusyon at sa batas. You must not, you must not distinguish or you must not give special treatment na porke dati mong hepe or dati mong kabaro, hindi mo nahuhulihin. Again, the PNP and the law enforcement authorities must only have one law, the Constitution, and of course, the statutes and Supreme Court decisions.
Okay, ito po, attorney, ang arrest warrant po ba ay pwedeng i-serve sa abogado ng akusado? Tapos, pwede rin po ba yung citizen's arrest? Can you tell us more about it?
Yung sa una niyo pong question, no, again, wala pong batas, wala sa rules of court at walang Supreme Court decision na nagsasabi at nag-authorize na ang abogado ang pwedeng tumanggap ng warrant of arrest at mag-serve nito sa kanyang kliyente. So, mali po yung paniniwala na yon. Ang tanging role ng lawyers with respect to the implementation of a warrant of arrest is kung voluntary surrender ang gustong gawin ng kanyang kliyente, he or she can coordinate with the lawful or the law enforcement authorities. So, sana po ay malinaw na sa lahat na hindi po pwede yung ganun.
Okay. Last po, very quick na lang po, yung citizen's arrest. Pwede din po ba yon?
Kasi po ang citizen's arrest ay ginagawa lamang kapag usually walang warrant of arrest.
At
So
pursuit.
dahil po mayroon tayong warrant of arrest, it is the law enforcement authorities lamang po ang pwedeng humuli kay Senator Bato kung matatagpuan nila.
Alright, we're clear on that.
All right, thank you for your time and insights. As always, Attorney Jennifer Arlene Reyes, a constitutional law book author and a law professor.
Thank you.
Always welcome!
Now, tensions remain high at the Senate as lawmakers push for a deeper probe into last week's shooting incident and prepare for Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial. Mobile Journal Merimon Reyes has the report.
Walang iniisang kayo na makamusta sa amin. Some of you I've known for 20 years. 10 years? And I didn't even hear any of you say, kamusta na kayo dyan?
An emotional Senator Pia Cayetano took to the session floor on Wednesday her recollection of the shooting incident inside the Senate complex last week. This followed manifestations and speeches of Senate Minority Bloc members pushing for an independent and deeper investigation of what actually transpired in the incident. Yesterday, Senator Ping Lacson took a swipe at Cayetano's statement. He wrote, quote of the day, "Wala man lang nangumusta sa amin," followed by asking how one could even check on people who seemed happily eating, drinking coffee, and even going on Facebook Live while accusing the minority of supposedly knowing about the gunfires. Lacson also posted about how he was double relieved for no longer being the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee chairman, replaced by Cayetano. Meanwhile, according to Senator Erwin Tulfo in a phone call with the media, as they await for either a specific committee or a committee of the whole to do the legislative inquiry, with others also rooting for independent fact-finding bodies. What also matters now is an overhaul of security protocol.
Doon po sila nakapokus na doon sa lugar na parang anino ho yata pinagbabaril nila, parang kulang po sa training. And ito po ay awakening po sa security sa Senate mismo na may problema.
Tulfo reiterated that minority members did express concern in the Senator's group chat, with him even praying for the safety of everyone still inside the Senate during the shooting incident. He mentioned Cayetano may not have had the time to see the messages due to the panic in the situation. In other Senate matters, Tulfo also shared that the all-member Senate caucus last Wednesday discussed the initial schedule of the Senate as both an impeachment court and legislative body. The trial proper is set to begin on July 6 pre-SONA. Regular sessions will be held in the morning before proceeding to the impeachment in the afternoon of Monday, and to be continued at 3 o'clock in the afternoon onwards of Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Thursdays will be for committee hearings and session, while Fridays will also be for other legislative matters. Given this, pre-trial matters may take place in the month of June. Meanwhile, Tulfo opposed the proposed Senate Rules Amendment of Senator Rodante Marcoleta, which allows Senator Bato de la Rosa, facing an International Criminal Court arrest warrant, to vote remotely in the impeachment proceedings.
I think pag dinala po sa floor yan, hindi rin po lulusot yan dahil talagang sa ang minority po, sigurado po ako ay hindi po boboto yan.
According to a majority bloc senator, while the motion was already referred to the Committee on Rules, which is yet to have a chairman to keep the ball rolling, De La Rosa still cannot participate virtually in plenary sessions and the impeachment trial. According to the Senate rules, the Senate President may convene and hold a session through teleconference, video conference, or other reliable forms of remote or electronic means due to force majeure or the occurrence of national emergencies that may prevent the convening of the Senate or the physical presence of its members in the session hall. Kapatid Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes, we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Authorities are inspecting rice prices and supply as they check compliance with the price cap on imported rice. For the latest, let's go live to our mobile journalist Fatima Baduria in Quezon City. Fatima, go ahead.
Angela, Diego, nagsagawa nga kanina ng joint price monitoring ang Department of Agriculture at Department of Trade and Industry para makita kung sumusunod ang mga nagtitinda ng bigas sa price cap sa imported rice na 5% broken na bigas. Ayon kasi sa Executive Order 118, kailangang hindi tataas sa 50 pesos kada kilo ang benta rito. At sa pag-iikot naman kanina ng DA at DTI, nakita namang sinusunod yan dito sa Mega Q Mart. Pero nagpaalala ang DA na kailangan ng transparency sa mga price tag na nakalagay sa bigas dahil bukod daw sa presyo, mas maganda kung nakalagay din kung saan galing yung bigas na yun para mas madaling malaman kung lokal ba o imported yung bigas. At mas naghihigpit nga rin ang monitoring ng DA at DTI dahil posible raw ma-issuehan ng violation o notice of violation ang mga hindi susunod dito sa price cap. At pagka nga hindi sumunod ayon sa kanila ay pwedeng mauwi sa pagkakakulong ng 1 to 10 years o pagbumulta o ng 5,000 to 1 million pesos. Depende raw yan dun sa nagawa nila. At may nakausap nga tayong nagtitindilugi, meron pa rin naman daw tubo. Kahit papano, yun nga lang, 4 pesos na lang yung tubo nila kumpara sa dati na 7 to 8 pesos yung kinikita nila sa kada kilo ng bigas. So talagang mas bumaba yung kita nila. Although nabanggit din naman ng DA na temporary lang daw itong price cap at pagkatapos noon ay makakabawi na yung mga nagtitinda. Angela.
Alright, thank you so much, Mobile Journal, Fatima Baduria.
The Commission on Elections will conduct a full preliminary investigation into alleged illegal campaign contributions involving former Senate President Francis Escudero. This comes after a formal complaint was filed by lawyer and vlogger Jesus Falsis. The poll body had earlier dismissed a motu proprio inquiry into the same allegations, but said new documentary evidence is now available for evaluation. The COMELEC Law Division said it may proceed with a full preliminary investigation or elevate the matter to the Commission on Bank for further action.
To talk more about this, we are joined by COMELEC spokesperson Attorney Rex Taulianco. Good morning, Attorney. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ma'am Angela, Sir Diego, Angela. Good morning po. Maraming salamat po.
Well, perhaps can you walk us through the status of this case involving alleged illegal campaign contributions and how it reached this stage?
It came from a formal complaint as stated in the report by Attorney Jesus Falsis, filed with the Commission on Elections Law Department. So per as procedure, this complaint affidavit was duly received and taken cognizance of, and now the preliminary investigation is to ensue. Magpo-proceed po ito as part of the rules of procedure ng Commission on Elections, and of course, to give due process both to the complainant and of course, the respondent in this case.
Attorney, di ba you conducted an initial investigation tapos parang natapos na yan. But based sa report, meron daw bagong evidence regarding this issue?
Opo, we cannot discuss yet about the evidence because this will practically be the subject of the preliminary investigation. And tama po kayo na discuss po ito. Nagkaroon kasi ng motu proprio investigation yung aming Political Finance and Affairs Department. That is the department in charge of the reception of the SOSES, the statements of contributions and expenditure. But this time, different po ito kasi merong isang complaint affidavit na naisubmit dun sa mismong department namin na magko-conduct ng investigation on election offenses.
Okay.
Kaya po ito'y sumusulong as part of the due process and procedures.
Baka you can refresh us a little, Attorney. Ano yung initial finding nyo sa investigation nyo?
Tama po. Siguro po para mas maganda, nagsimula po kasi ito sometime nung ma-discuss, i-publish ng Commission on Elections ang lahat ng statements of contributions and expenditures sa aming website. So nakita po doon, and besides po, talagang yun ang intention ng COMELEC, makita ng publiko yung mga donors, contributors. At doon po nagkaroon ng issue dahil ayon sa Section 95C ng Omnibus Election Code, meron po mga ipinagbabawal na contributions na hindi pwedeng tanggapin ng ating mga kandidato. At isa nga po dito, yung manggagaling doon sa mga contributors, whether yan po ay natural person or juridical entity na merong existing na kontrata sa gobyerno, whether that is for goods, services, or infrastructure. And we all know that Mr. Lubiano is an owner or a proprietor of a company, a construction company engaged with and dealing business with the government.
Well, for context po for our viewers, Attorney, no, perhaps you can tell us ano po yung mismong violation on this case under the, kung mapatunayan po, under the Omnibus Election Code.
Specifically on point po dun sa complaint is an alleged violation of Section 95C of the Omnibus Election Code. Section 95 of the Omnibus Election Code deals with prohibited contributions. While natanggapin, hindi po kasi pwedeng tumanggap ang mga kandidato tulad na manggagaling sa foreign entities, foreign corporations, foreign governments, religious institutions, yung mga financial institutions na merong kontrata sa gobyerno, educational institutions na sinusuportahan ng pamahalaan, at katulad nga po nitong the one on this case yung mga contributors na merong kontrata.
We will try to fix
Yeah.
the internet connection
Sayang ang sinasabi
of
ni Attorney
Rex
Rex Laudianco,
Laudianco of
spokesperson.
COMELEC, para nga mas maliwanagan tayo dito sa explanation regarding the case against Senator Cheese Escudero, because yun nga tulad ng nasabi before, kasi may nauna ng investigasyon
Motu
mismo
proprio.
Sa
ang
pamahalaan,
COMELEC.
whether that is for goods, infrastructure, or
Ayun.
services.
Yes, Attorney, nawala po kayo. Sorry. Okay.
You were talking about Section, I think, 95?
Attorney, can you hear us now? We'll try to fix that line again, no? Mahirap pag ang internet mo eh.
Oo.
Di ba ganyan? So anyway, so yun nga. So prior to this, last year, if I'm not mistaken, nagkaroon nga ng motu proprio, di ba, na investigation ng COMELEC. Sila mismo, ibig sabihin, wala naghain ng reklamo, sila lang mismo ang nag-initiate nung pag-iimbestiga na yon, at kinlear nga si Senator Cheese Escudero on that
Kasi
case.
ang finding is parang yung kay Lubiano, in his own capacity, nagbigay ng donations and not as part of the entity that has government dealings or contracts.
But
So
this time
he was cleared
around,
for that.
Yes, but this time around, this is a new, new case, diba? O new investigation. Kasi
Because there's new evidence.
there's a new evidence filed by Attorney
Falsis.
Falsis. Meron daw new evidence na maaari, kaya nagtulak ulit ng investigation regarding this. So we will see if we can get back to Attorney Laudianco para mas ma-explain niya sa atin ano ba yung violation dito sa Omnibus Election Code na ito. And of course, ano yung magiging penalty if ever found guilty.
I think we have attorney back. Attorney Rex?
Attorney? Attorney, nakamute po kayo. Attorney,
Hello,
can
sir.
you-
Magandang
Ayun.
tanghali po.
Yun. I think, attorney, no, you stopped, naputol yung linya natin at you're explaining Section 95 ba yun?
That is correct. That Section 95 po is the violation thereof is considered as an election offense. So ang election offense po is actually a criminal offense. Kung sakali man po may finding ng probable cause ang Commission on Elections, isasampa po sa regional trial courts ang kasong ito. So siguro po nagtatanong kayo, galing na sa COMELEC, bakit isasampa pa sa regional trial court?
Yes.
Dahil criminal case nga po ito na ang penalty po ay may imprisonment ng 1 to 6 years, kasama na po yung accessory penalties ng forfeiture ng right to suffrage, pati na rin po ng perpetual disqualification to hold public office.
Well, sa dami po ng mga public officials na nadawit po dito sa donation, no, allegedly ng mga contractors, I was wondering, is there a possibility na lumawak pa po itong investigation na ito at madawit pa po itong mga public officials na ito?
Hindi pa po humihinto at hindi pa po nagko-conclude ang aming Political Finance and Affairs Department sa pag-iimbestiga doon sa mga nasumiting sources. Kung matatandaan niyo po, merong nabanggit si Chairman Garcia a few months ago na ilang mga iniimbestigahan nila, mga governors, vice governors, members of the House of Representatives and even party list na tinitignan po namin based on available document kung talagang nanggaling nga po yung contribution sa mga contractors. Kaya po hindi pa po tapos ang COMELEC dito, tuloy-tuloy po ang investigation.
So klaruhin ko lang to, Attorney Rex, no, if let's say found guilty the person involved, in this case si Senator Chis Escudero, may prison term po ba ito?
Yes, sir. Gaya ng nasabi ko po kanina, ang magagawa po ng COMELEC dito is not to impose a direct penalty but to file a case, a criminal case. Ang tawag po dito ay election offense sa Regional Trial Court. And then kasama po dito, COMELEC mismo ang magpo-prosecute given na ito ay election offense at dun po, korte ang maaring magpataw po ng pagkakakulong na 1 to 6 years, perpetual disqualification, and forfeiture of the right to suffrage.
So usually, Attorney, alam po timeline nitong ganitong investiga?
Mabilis lang po matatapos ang sa Commission on Elections bagamat hindi namin masabi na kung gaano karaming linggo. But suffice it to say na pag nabigyan po ng due process, nabigyan ng pagkakataon yung ating respondent na makasagot dun sa complaint. At yun naman pong ating complainant, mabigyan muli ng pagkakataon na mag-file ng kanyang reply at kung kinakailangan, humingi po muli ng ating rejoinder. At titignan din po kung merong pang kinakailangan na tignan, i-evaluate na ebidensya, magpatawag ng hearing yung ating investigation officer. Practically, yan po ang steps sa ating preliminary investigation. Immediately after the conclusion of those steps, ay iaakit na po nila yung kanilang recommendation sa ating Commission and Bank which will ultimately decide if there is probable cause and if there will be an order to file a case, a criminal information with the Regional Trial Court.
Pagdating po ba sa rules ng COMELEC, Attorney, wala po bang plano ang COMELEC officials na balikan po at i-review yung rules nito pagdating po sa campaign donation? Kasi ito po ay nagiging malaking debate po ngayon na tulad nga po, yung nagkakaroon po kasi ng mga usapin ng technicalities. No? Yung donation ng isa na, okay, hindi naman siya dun sa corporation galing, pero sa personal niyang pera galing. So parang dun po nagkakaroon ng debate. Attorney.
Tama po kayo. Tama po kayo. It's actually not a problem with the rules dahil po yung implementing rules ni COMELEC ay base lamang doon po sa meets and bounds and sa limitations ng ating batas. Ang mangyari po dito kasi yung batas po mismo ang nagkaroon ng issue. Kaya nga po mismo ng COMELEC, kasama po ito doon sa aming proposed amendments doon sa ating revised Omnibus Election Code. Bukod po kasi sa napakaraming nakakalat na batas na hindi kasama doon sa Omnibus Election Code, ang ginawa po ng COMELEC dito, nag-draft ng isang proposed revised Omnibus Election Code na pinagsama-sama na lahat ng election laws, kasama po itong amendments na pinag-uusapan natin na sana mas malinaw yung Section 95 kung kailangan din. Meron tinatawag po kasing piercing the corporate veil, wala pong kasama dyan, baka sakali sa amendments ay maisama po ito.
Yun, kasi iba nadadaan sa technicalities mga loophole. So, alright, we will continue to get in touch with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, COMELEC spokesperson, Attorney Rex Laudianco. Good morning. Now, in other news, amid recent power alerts and rotational brownouts, the government is pushing Filipinos to make energy saving a weekly habit. The Energy Department says even 1 hour of switching off non-essential lights and appliances can help ease demand on the grid. Here's the report.
The Department of Energy has launched its Oras Natin sa Efficiency campaign, also called One Earth Hour. The launch was attended by Energy Secretary Sharon Garin, Pasay City Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano, and other DOE officials. The campaign encourages Filipinos to conserve energy by switching off non-essential lights and appliances every Saturday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. According to Garin, this collective 1 hour action can save up to 145 megawatts, the same amount conserved during the recent Earth Hour observance. The DOE says doing this weekly could lead to significant annual energy savings. Garin was also asked about the red and yellow alerts in the power grids, which recently triggered rotational brownouts.
Sa sobrang init, may nasisirap tayong power plants. Sa sobrang init,
napapadaming aircon na naka-on ngayon. So, manipis talaga yung nangyayari ngayon na reserba natin. We've been planning for this. Ang problema lang po kasi para ma-implement yung mga proyekto, it takes time to build new power plants.
The DOE hopes the One Earth Hour program will help make energy conservation a habit for Filipinos starting this Saturday.
Let's now talk to George Umali, National Coordinator of Kuryente.org. Good morning and thank you for joining us, George.
Good morning po, Ma'am Angelo and Ma'am Angela. Good
Alright,
morning.
George, ano reaction natin na sabi ng gobyerno mag-observe daw ng weekly 1-hour energy saving period?
Kung ako po ay susuportahan ko po yan personally. Totoo naman po at may data naman po na binanggit si Secretary Garin patungkol po dun sa pagbabawas ng pressure sa grid nung nakaraang March nung may mga nag-participate doon sa programang yon. Pero sa tingin ko po, very practical din naman po na kung hindi po natin ginagamit yung ating mga appliances, mas maganda po na bubunutin natin ito dahil makakabawas din, bukod sa makakabawas po tayo ng load, makakatipid po tayo.
Well, madami naman nag-agree dyan, George, na of course all of us have to do our part. Pero ang tanong kasi ng marami, anong gagawin ngayon ng gobyerno? Because medyo manipis ang supply natin. Tapos pag nagkakaroon ng maintenance, yung mga grid nagkakaroon ng mga alert.
Opo, nako ang laki po ng problema lagi po ng gobyerno natin dyan na tayo po yung pumapasan taon-taon. Kasi hindi naman po bago ito, ma'am and sir, na nagkakaroon tayo ng red and yellow alerts tuwing panahon ng tag-init. At yan po, sinabi naman po ni Madam Secretary Garin na umiinit yung panahon, tumataas yung demand, din etc. So alam naman po pala natin yung problema, ano pong ginagawa natin. Yung nakaraan po na binabanggit ni Madam Garin, kanina po dun sa interview, numipis daw po yung tawag dito yung supply ng kuryente. Although yung report po doon na nakaraan, yung red alert na nangyari po diyan sa Luzon grid and sa Visayas grid, ay ayon po sa ulat ay dahil po doon sa problema sa dalawang transmission lines ng NGCP. So meaning NGCP po yung may problema at walang binabanggit doon sa pagninipis ng kuryente. Pero ngayon may binabanggit na siya, no? So yan na po yung epekto na po yan ng paulit-ulit na problema po natin sa ating power sector.
Well, George, what other energy-saving tips would you recommend the government to implement, aside from 1-hour weekly shutdown of non-essential appliances?
Medyo uminit po nung nakaraan yung Meralco dahil doon sila ay nabash patungkol po doon sa solar. Alam niyo po kung di niyo po na itatanong, ako po ay advocate po ng solar at DIY solar at off-grid. At ako tingin ko po, marami na po ngayon ang nagsasagawa ng mga pagse-setup ng mga solar setup na off-grid na hindi po sila nakakabit sa ating national grid. So kung dumadami po yung mga gumagawa ng ganitong sistema, unti-unti pong nababawasan yung mga nakaasa dun sa ating grid at nababawasan po yung load. Pero, syempre of course, napakatotoo na dapat na magiging prioridad natin yung kaligtasan at safety, lalo na kung ang ating mga proseso ay DIY.
On the average, George, you were mentioning off-grid solar. I've seen several already. Pero magkano yung mga prices nito? And kaya ba nito tugunan ang consumption ng isang whole household? Sabihin na natin may 3 aircon dyan, 3 TV, 2 ref. Kaya ba niya?
Ako, ma'am and sir, hindi po kasi ganun yung target ko hindi po yun yung objective ko kung bakit po ako nagsasolar. Although kaya po naman po talaga. Yung buong bahay nyo po kaya po talaga. Pero of course, mag-iiba po yan dun sa usapin ng presyo sa bulsa. Kung kayo po naman yung mga ordinary consumers lamang na umiikot yung ating puwet sa paghahanap po ng pambayad sa kuryente buwan-buwan. So yung mga halagang 200,000 na mga solar rooftops, talaga po namang napaka-imposible po nito para sa ating mga maraming kababayan. Kaya nga po nakikita ko po na very practical po yung DIY na pwede po kung nakakabili po kayo ng cellphone, makakapag-set up po kayo ng solar setup na maaaring makapagpatakbo ng inyong basic na mga pangangailangan sa bahay like ventilador, lights, charging po ng inyong mga devices, and yung mga maliliit po na konsumo.
Well, George, you are the organization Kuryente org, tama po ba, is very
Kuryente.org, ma'am.
Kuryente.org, okay. Is very vocal about yung kakulangan, no, sa inyo, para sa inyo, kakulangan ng plano ng DOE to address this issue. Ano pa po ba yung nakikita nyo dapat nilang gawin to save electricity? Because I understand sa inyo pong panig, sinasabi nyo na tayo pa bang consumer lagi ang magsisave ng electricity?
Opo. Sa totoo po kasi, ang ayon doon sa mga ulat, mga reports din ito po ng DOE and ERC, kaya naman nagkakaproblema tayo sa kuryente sa supply dahil po kulang po talaga yung ating mga planta. Kaya marami pong mga nagmumungkahi na dapat po magdagdag po ng mga plants like coal plants. Ang problema, marami pong magagalit na mga advocacy groups niyan. Ngayon, papalakasin po natin yung ating mga renewable energy. Ang problema naman po, yung renewable energy sector natin, tayo pong mga ordinary consumers ang nagbabayad. Nauunawaan ko naman po na in the long run ay makapapakinabangan po natin ito ng malaki. Kaya lang po, sa sobrang mataas na po ng ating presyo ng kuryente at ina-advocate po natin yung pagkakaroon ng renewable energy, bakit po sa ating mga ordinary consumers ipinapataw yung mga dagdag na bayarin? So yun po yung mga malalaking hamon po yan sa DOE kung paano niya po babalansehin na meron po siyang strategic direction na kinakailangan niya mapalakas yung ating energy sector at palalakasin niya yung ating generation capacity. Saan niya po kunin yung pera? Sa atin po ba?
What other specific issues po or kumbaga ano pa po yung mga pinag-usapan po ng DOE sa House of Representatives when your organization was present there few days ago regarding this matter?
Ma'am, sa Congress po ako madalas nakaka-participate sa Committee on Energy. At isa po sa aming mga sinusuportahang mga panukala ay unang-una yung pagre-review at pagtatanggal po ng VAT sa ating iba't ibang charges sa ating bayarin. At kasama nga po yung system loss doon sa mayroong pang VAT na binabayaran. So, maganda po na talagang ma-review po maigi at much better kung talagang maaalis na siya. No? At isa pong malaking hamon po, ma'am, sir, sa pamahalaan natin. Kasi po, privatized po yung ating energy sector. At tayo po ay nakaasa doon sa kung ano yung mga magaganap doon sa international. Pag nagkaroon po ng inflation, nagkaroon po ng digmaan, apektado po tayo. So, hindi pa po ba panahon na para mag-isip yung ating pamahalaan kung paano mag-formulate po sila ng safety net para sa ating mga ordinary consumers? 2 dekada na po, sobra po na 2 dekada na tayo po yung pumapasan talaga ng mataas na bayarin sa kuryente.
And we need, kumbaga parang we need proactive solutions, not reactive, no? Every time na parang kailangan natin, saka lang tayo nagko-convene, diba, to talk about it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Alam niyo po, itong nakaraang gera na nung unang pumutok po itong yung Middle East crisis, ano po, nagdidebate pa, naghahanap pa, magde-declare po ba ng national emergency, magde-data gathering pa. Ay, wala na po. Nag-aalburuto na po yung mga tao dahil doon sa problema. So, kitang-kita po yung kawalan ng kahandaan din ng ating pamahalaan at prioridad po doon sa ating mga ordinary consumers.
Alright, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. George Umali, National Coordinator of Kuryente.org. Kada umaga po.
Maraming salamat po.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
The National Commission of Senior Citizens, or NCSC, is calling on government offices, banks, and private establishments to recognize the digital National Senior Citizens ID as valid proof of identity. The NCSC said senior citizens presenting the digital ID must continue to be granted benefits such as discounts, VAT exemptions, and other privileges under the law. It stressed that the eGov.ph-based ID should be accepted in all transactions to ensure convenient and uninterrupted access to services for older Filipinos. Launched in 2025, the digital NSCID has been accessed by more than 1.3 million senior citizens as of April 2026.
A Filipino-American designer is bringing Filipino culture to one of the world's most iconic dolls. Carlisle Nuera, a lead designer for Barbie's signature at Mattel, created Filipino Barbies, inspired by his heritage and by his mother, a former beauty queen. Nuera first designed the Filipina Barbie in 2015, modeled after his mother as Miss Tacloban. 10 years later, he released a second Filipina Barbie featuring details such as a sun crown inspired by the Philippine flag. Both dolls sold out, with some now being sold to collectors online for hundreds of dollars.
Filipino basketball fans will soon get to watch Japan B-League action live in Manila. This September, Dwight Ramos and AJ Edu will lead the preseason showcase at the Mall of Asia Arena. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho has the report.
Japan's top professional basketball league is heading to Manila. The B-League will hold preseason games in the Philippines this September, part of its 10th anniversary celebration and the 70th year of diplomatic relations between Japan and the Philippines. The league made the announcement in a press conference yesterday at SM Mega Mall. PBA Commissioner Willie Marshall and B-League Executive Officer Nao Wakamoto both joined the launch.
Why we're here is because 70 years of Japan and Philippines friendship, right? So, and I want to congratulate Japan B-League for having a world-class program and production in the span of 10 years.
I really hope the basketball, power of basketball, connect our bond, make it stronger. That's a very important thing for us. If we could, contribute by the power of basketball, by the power of the B-League, it's quite meaningful for us.
Filipino standouts AJ Edu and Dwight Ramos will take center stage as Edu's Gunma Crane Thunders face Ramos's Levanga Hokkaido on September 9 and 10 at the Mall of Asia Arena. Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas Executive Ryan Gregorio, also present, said Filipino fans rarely get the chance to watch B-League action live, making the event more special.
We are watching B-League only through our platforms, Signal Television, and it's so different if we can witness Filipinos playing together with Japanese playing and also international talents to showcase what they're capable of doing.
After playing in Japan for 4 years, Ramos said he's excited to share the unique B-League experience with Filipino fans.
I'm just looking forward to see how the B-League, every team has their own home arena. They have a nice intro. They have like a show, halftime show, pregame ceremony type of thing. And I'm just excited to see how they're going to bring that into all of Asia if they can do the same thing. So
the B-League will also feature a final week watch party in the Philippines, featuring the championship series between Nagasaki Velka and Ryukyu Golden Kings. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho, We Are One News.
Ang pogi ni Papa Dwight, no? Ay, hindi. Ay, pare, galing mo basketball, bro. Nabanggit ko lang naman. Nabigla lang naman ako.
Pero alam mo ba kung bakit daw natatakot si Bato sa ICC warrant of arrest?
Oh, I'm scared to ask. Why?
Kasi papel yun. Okay. Okay.
That wraps up today's episode of News and
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela Lagusat Castro.
And I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid.
We are One
Bato,
News.
Bato.
All sides, all the time. We are One News.